Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. My name is Charles Chambliss. I am your host of Let's Talk About It Now. We have an interesting subject tonight, folks, a controversial one, I will tell you. As you come into the building, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and support the channel if you should feel so moved to do so. $ capital C, capital G, 4033. 4033. That being said, we're going to get right into it. I want to start off by saying something. I believe that whenever you're having a conversation that involves the Most High Yah, I want to say this. I believe you should give a statement asking for his guidance and coverage in what you will say. So I'll start out by saying this, that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, Yah, my rock and my redeemer. Again, with that being said, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, folks, and I thank all of you for getting on the stream tonight. Those of you that catch the stream while it's live, and those of you that catch the stream after it's already streamed live. I thank you for your support. And if you feel it in your heart to do so, support the channel. Again, $ capital C, capital G, 4033. You see the subject tonight, folks. Why feminizing of black men is necessary to neutralize the potential for future leadership. And make no mistake about it, when I say the feminizing of black men, that does not exclude men who do not share my particular reflection. Now, the feminizing of men in general, black men in particular, is a national and international campaign. Make no mistake about it. What most do not understand about this campaign is why is it necessary? Why is it so necessary to shove down the throats of not just the American people, but people in general who perhaps have not made the decision with this lifestyle? I mean, I know many of you have to be asking yourself a question. Why is this campaign so aggressive? Why is this campaign so direct and so forceful? And why is so much money being put behind such a campaign? What is the objective and what is the agenda? That's a very good question to ask. Why are our children, in addition to the adults who may not understand this lifestyle, who may not understand the decision to take on the alternative lifestyle, but simply because they're barraged, they're smothered with the idea of this lifestyle. They're smothered with the campaign of this lifestyle. I mean, currently, right now, we're in what's called Pride Month. Pride Month. Now, I will tell you this, folks, and I just want you to reason with me, those of you who have a mind to reason and not be caught up in your feelings and your emotions in making that, in exercising your ability to reason. Why is this campaign so aggressive? And why are those who exercise their right according to the Constitution to determine what they agree with and what they don't agree with, to exercise that agreement or disagreement, why are they demonized? Why are you demonized? Not just in the workplace. Why is there such a tight-lipped policy as it relates to what you as a citizen in this country disagree with? Why is it okay for you to disagree with many different things without any pushback, without any ridicule, without being called names? Why is this okay? And yet, if you decide you disagree with this particular lifestyle, you are then demonized for having that disagreement. Folks, don't you see that your civil rights, the rights that you were told you are entitled to to have an opinion, to agree or disagree with whatever that is. This was your right to do. This is your human right, much less your civil right. Yet you are being stifled and arrested for having such rights or exercising such rights. Haven't you questioned yourself? Haven't you begun to question why government, not just here in the United States, but why government around the world is enforcing this agenda and then demonizing those who disagree? What is this campaign to feminize men in general, black men in particular? And how does that, and why is that necessary to neutralize the future of black leadership and leadership in general? Why? Why is this? If you look back on history, every major cause that was ever fought, and as we go into the stream, out to my moderators, put a 1 in the chat box if in fact my sound is good and you can hear me clearly. If I need to modify the sound of the music in the background, give me a number 2 in the background. Shout out to Abdul. Thanks for getting on the stream this evening. To my moderators, awesome. Shout out to my sister, Alfreda. Love you. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Sis. Love you. Folks, you have to ask yourself a critical question. Why is this agenda so aggressively supported? Why is this agenda so aggressively encouraged? And why is this agenda targeting young children? You have to ask yourself these questions, folks, because listen, at the end of the day, you have children. For those of you that have children, I'm sure you love your children, right? I'm sure you would lose your life in defense of your children, right? I'm sure that you would not see harm come to any of your children if, in fact, you knew harm was potentially evident or imminent. Am I correct? I'm sure you would say yes. What's baffling to the mind today in this modern culture is that adults have left their children unprotected where this agenda is concerned. Under the disguise, I should say, of exercising their right. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm going to tell you something, man. And I'm going to say this to those of you. I intend to use scripture. I intend to use the Bible to back up everything I intend to say tonight. And for those of you that don't believe the Bible, fine. You might want to log off right now. And for those of you that believe the Bible is a white man's book, you really might want to log off right now. And like I said in my previous stream, for those of you that take that position where the Bible is concerned and saying that it's a white man's book and it was in fact tampered with and given to black people as a slave tool, I want to ask you a real serious question that I'm sure you won't be able to answer. And that question is, if the white man produced the Bible, if the white man gave the Bible, answer this for me. Why is the Bible against everything that you see in the society today? Would they write a Bible? Would they write a book that goes against everything that they're doing? Make that make sense. And that's for those of you that take that position. The Bible, in fact, is a book that we have that was inspired by prophets, that was inspired by messengers. Whether you agree or you don't agree, that's besides the point. I will tell you this. One thing it says in Romans 15th chapter, 4th verse, it says, For whatsoever things were written in times past were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. That's what it says. I will tell you this. Some say, well, I don't believe the Bible because it's been tampered with. And some of you may say, well, that believe in the Quran. You may say, I don't believe the Quran because the Quran has been tampered with. I want to ask you a question. If you don't believe in any revealed scripture, what exactly are you referring to give guidance to your own behavior? What are you referring to give guidance to your own language, your own going abouts in the society? What guidance, what are you listening to give you guidance? What are you giving? What are you doing? And if you have a book that's bigger than the Bible, that's bigger than the Quran, I would say to you, you need to produce your book. But as it stands right now, what I believe and what I support and what I go by is the sacred words of the Most High Yah. That's the Bible. So we're going to get right into it. And again, I thank all of you for getting on the stream tonight. Alfreda said the original Bible, that is, way before King James. Okay. Alfreda said the Bible came from Africa. Well, I don't know about that. But thank you for that comment. I believe the minute we start saying the Bible came from anywhere and anyone but God, we're already messing up. That's in my opinion. That's my personal opinion. But tonight's subject is going to be based on the feminizing of black men in general, black men in particular, and why it was necessary and why it's necessary to neutralize the potential future black leadership. That's a fact. Alfreda said the LGBT community have their own Bible. That's a fact. I don't know how many of you knew that, but that's absolute fact. That's an absolute fact. Those are conversations I'm going to get into in future streams. I believe a lot of things people simply just don't know. But on the subject that we're dealing with tonight, I want to stay on topic and deal with this very critical issue that we're dealing with right now. We have a society that has already embraced what I would like to call free sex. Free sex. Sex or intimacy is a sacred act between a male and a female. I know some of you don't believe that. You don't agree with that. You have your own opinions. All I'm going to ask you to do is to listen with a critical ear, even if you disagree. This is what it was designed from the beginning, from the Creator. Whether you agree with what the Creator said or not, just follow me. If the two, male and female, come together, it produces what? Life in the earth. That was the whole objective between bringing a man and a woman together. It was to reproduce in the earth. It was to reproduce in the earth. That was what it was for. With free sex came a lot of different things. What came with free sex came the free, unrestrained sex behavior without consequence, without circumstance. In addition to that, what came behind it was abortion. And what came behind that, along with that, I should say, would be what you call the ability to prevent yourself from getting pregnant. They came up with different medications to prevent a woman from getting pregnant. Birth control. Then organizations also were developed to facilitate that same thought process and idea and agenda, which was entitled Planned Parenthood. These organizations were not designed to promote family, although they disguised their agenda under the concept of promoting family and safe sex. That's what they disguised it as. But under the free sex movement came a lot of perversions. And I want to highlight a few things that the free sex era brought about. What was the sexual revolution? Coming from an article entitled study.com. And you can find this article on that particular website. It says, what was the sexual revolution? The sexual revolution led to a decrease in birth rate, as women were more able to control reproduction with the contraceptive pill. It also led to a greater acceptance of the LGBTQ plus community, identities, and rights. There has also been an increase in the production and consumption of pornography and a decrease in monogamy due to the sexual revolution. Just follow me, ladies and gentlemen, because if you watch the society you live in right now, you're going to see exactly what I'm going to say tonight in this stream. It will play itself out in what you see every single day, not just in your own personal encounters, but what you see on the news, what you see in television series, what you see in movies. Everything that I'm going to highlight tonight, you will remember everything that you've ever seen and heard up to this point that will coincide with everything that I'm going to say tonight. And I want you to ask yourself a question. What's going on in the society? What is the agenda? What is the campaign that's being promoted and pushed, not just amongst those who have chosen the alternative lifestyle, but even amongst those who claim to be heterosexual, those who claim to have not supported or decided to live the alternative lifestyle? Why has the the heterosexual community become the biggest promoters of a lifestyle that they claim not to support? What's happening in this society? I intend to highlight that before this stream is out. And again, I thank you for getting on the stream tonight. What contributed to the sexual revolution and what was its impact? Shout out to Afro Goddess for getting on the stream tonight. Glad to see you on the stream, my sister. What contributed to the sexual revolution what's its impact? The sexual revolution was pushed forward due to an unlikely coalition of scientists, feminists, hippies, and gay rights activists who believed that a freer, more aggressive sexuality was in order. Together, these advocates helped move societal morals on sexuality forward and brought greater acceptance to sexual diversity and difference. What was the sexual revolution? The sexual revolution, or the sexual liberation movement as called, took place in the United States throughout the world beginning in the 1960s. Understand this, folks. This is not a new movement. This is a movement that has evolved over the last 50 plus years. It's been in the works and it's been in the making for a very long time. It's just become full bloom today and evolving even further. And in my personal opinion, if this movement and this campaign goes unchecked, it will, in fact, I believe, my personal opinion, it will destroy this country. No doubt. It will destroy this country. You got to understand something. With the sexual movement, again, as I mentioned earlier, came about the birth control campaign, where the pill was introduced. Abortion was also promoted and legalized under Roe versus Wade. When you got these two elements in place that have now become not only normalized and accepted, but it becomes a way of life, you've put into place elements, agencies that inhibit childbirth, which in turn shortens and lowers the population. What do you believe same-sex marriage, what do you believe this campaign of feminizing men in general, black men in particular, what do you believe this campaign will also do in conjunction with abortion, in conjunction with the pill? What do you think this is going to do? This is one of the largest, most aggressive, highly financed birth control method that's ever been done. I can recall when I was in high school, was there individuals that were a part of this lifestyle? Absolutely. Anybody who's my age, and I was born in the 60s, I'm 54 years of age. soon to be 55. I can recall when I was in high school, there were many individuals that I knew personally who did choose that lifestyle. But many of you that watch my stream, if you're near my age or older, you can recall also knowing many individuals that embraced the lifestyle. But did the society push the lifestyle to the aggressive level that they're pushing it today? What is the agenda is what I want you ladies and gentlemen to focus on and ask yourself the question, what is the end goal to this? And for any of you that have chosen this lifestyle, I want to say to you, this is not an attack against you. No. Because truth be told, to be quite honest with you, I don't care what you choose to do sexually. I really don't care. I don't care. And I'll be honest with you, many people don't care. But because it's become such a national, international campaign to where now movies, social media, and every major media platform in the society, not just within the United States, but even outside of the United States, has begun to support, promote, and encourage. It's become available in textbook form where children are concerned. Cartoons are made that promote this lifestyle. See, when you start crossing those lines, when you start crossing those boundaries, now you're infringing upon people and their own personal space. And yet they're demonized if in fact they express their dislike or their disapproval of the lifestyle. I mean, let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen that watch my stream. If a child today can determine just in a whim that, I don't want to be a boy today, I want to be a girl. If the parents who are held with the responsibility of protecting their own children, if they're held with that responsibility, I want you to ask yourself a realistic question. Get outside of your emotions. Get outside your fear of being canceled. Get outside your fear of what others will call you, the names that they will call you. Because I will tell you this, anytime you add phobia to anything, even the ignorant who can't identify nor define what the word phobia means, all they got to do is add homophobic to it, and you understand that to mean, according to societal's definition, that you are against and that you hate those who choose the alternative lifestyle. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is unfair. That is unfair to those that choose to protect their children's future as it relates to a lifestyle that they are abjectly in disagreement with. I'm sure many of you can agree with that. I'm sure many of you can agree with that. So if your child comes home tomorrow and he says, Mommy, I got an AR and I want to go outside and just shoot up a few people. Why would you like to do that, Johnny? Because I love it. I feel that this is what I'm called to do. I want to ask you parents. I want to ask you adults. I want to ask you individuals that claim to be intellectually mature, that call yourself adults, and you have children, which makes you parents, mothers and fathers. Would you co-sign your child, son or daughter, simply because they make a decision to go into the world and do something of that nature? Would you co-sign it and say and fight for it to be legalized? Would you do that? Where is the line drawn in what's morally correct and what's illegal and immoral? What is it? Where is the line drawn in the sand for that? Where's the line drawn in the sand? Alfreda Cates, I saw your post. I'm gonna get back to that question in just a second. I just want to stay on topic. Thank you for your question, though. Where's the line drawn in the sand? Where is it? Because if there is no line drawn and we are just left to do as we please, I want to let you parents know, and I don't care what your ethnic persuasion is, your children are unprotected. you have already lost your children. You have already lost your children. It doesn't matter whether you agree or whether you even believe what I just said. Oh, you in fact have lost your children. You don't have control over your children at all. And I'll tell you where you gain control. It's when you're willing to stand up against what you know is morally correct. Again, you have, and all of us have, the right to choose whatever we desire. Nobody's arguing with you. I don't care what your ethnicity is. You can choose to do what you want to do, folks. I mean, honestly, you can really choose to do what you want to do. But today, what's wrong has already been deemed right. And what's right has already been labeled and deemed wrong. So the lines have become so blurred between what's correct and what's incorrect that even people who consider themselves to be sane and consider themselves to be righteous or consider themselves to be morally correct and who stand on a morally correct foundation, so they say, even those individuals, male and female, irregardless of their ethnicity or any demographic area for which they come from, even they don't know how to fight against what they hear, fight against what they see, or even have a voice to express their disapproval. Don't you understand what's happening in this world that you're living in, man? Don't you understand what's happening? The moral fiber of the society is lost. And sadly, those that stand on that same and live in that same society, they have also been lost. No one has the courage to speak. Most are unwilling to speak. And even if they know, they fear cancellation. They fear being ridiculed. They fear being called homophobic, or they fear being called a hater. Those that sit in platforms like mine, YouTube and other social media platforms, they fear being shut down, their page being shut down, or being banned, or being ridiculed in the public, or being told you shouldn't say that, or being censored. I don't care. Because here's the thing. If fear is what guides any of us, you already lost. A coward dies 1,000 deaths. You understand that? You understand me? A coward dies 1,000 deaths. But a soldier dies but once. All you got to do is stand up on what you currently believe, if it's morally correct, and be willing to speak it, irregardless of the consequences, irregardless of the ridicule, the backlash, the pushback, irregardless. Get a backbone. And that's irregardless of what you represent in terms of your faith. It doesn't matter. Where is the spinal cord of the society? Where are those that have stood on a platform of moral correctness? Where does anybody have the courage to stand up and speak? You know, I will tell you one thing that scripture says is that the righteous of the Lord say so. I see a lot of silence going on in the society today, irregardless of what we believe. Most are unwilling to say anything. We're willing to go along to get along. How does feminizing men in general, black men in particular, why is this necessary to neutralize the future of leadership, black leadership in particular? Many years ago and in times past, we had many black leaders who were young, in their 20s, who went to Harvard, who went to Yale, you know, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, H. Rap Brown, Kwame Ture, a.k.a. Stokely Carmichael, Farrakhan. Every person who made an impact on the society, Clarence 13X, he was a young man. Folks, what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that men who held a principle, it was before the feminization of black men. These men stood on a principle, and in fact, they were masculine and fearless. They stood on a narrative, they stood on a principle that irregardless of those who may have disagreed or those who may have considered them insane or heretic or, conspiracy theorists or whatever label that society wanted to put on men who stood on something that meant something. At least these men stood. At least they stood fearlessly, irregardless of the consequences. Those are stories of times past. Understand this. This generation that we have today, when they go forward into 50 years, like myself and like many others who are my age, they won't have history books to refer to of strong men in general, black men in particular, who stood for something, who were willing to sacrifice themselves, sacrifice their families, sacrifice their children for a cause that was bigger than themselves. Where are the men at, man? Don't you understand that everybody you see, every man you see, in a lot of cases, you see feminine. In a lot of cases, you see an emasculated man. You don't see any more masculine, strong, fearless men anymore. You don't see them in commercials. In fact, commercials are promoting drugs that prohibit you from detecting HIV. And in that commercial, they're promoting the alternative lifestyle in prime time while your children are watching that commercial. Oh yeah, while your children are looking at it. There is no more shame in the society. They don't care whether your children are watching that commercial or not. So your children are confused. They don't understand what they're looking at. Understand that a child's mind is like wet cement. It's like wet cement. That wet cement can be shaped into whatever you want it to be. And once it cools, once it hardens, it's the shape of the individual that shaped it. Are you shaping your own children's mind? And if so, for those of you that hear my stream now, or whether you hear my stream later, how are you shaping it? How are you shaping it? Again, many of you have already lost your children. Already lost your children. I'm a firm believer that most only have control up until the age of 5. The minute your children leave your company and they enter into the public school system, if in fact the public school system is where you send them, you've already lost your child from that point on. Unless you are extremely aggressive. And mind you, parents, you have to be knowledgeable about what I'm talking about right now and unafraid to debrief your children, or you have already lost your children. You've already lost your children if you have not gotten the knowledge and the understanding of what you're looking at right now in this society. You have already lost your children. Let's continue on what this sexual revolution did. I'm going to answer a few questions right towards the end. I'm looking at questions coming up in the comments section from Alfreda, and I want to answer a few of your questions before this stream is over. But I want to continue. But thank you for your question. I will go back to them and address them. Thank you. Again, the sexual revolution took place in the United States and throughout the world beginning in the 1960s. It was characterized by the relaxation of stringent moral rules. Folks, I need you to listen to this. It was characterized by the relaxation of stringent moral rules and values around sex and sexuality, including broader acceptance of premarital sex, the exploration of queer identities and homosexuality, masturbation, and various forms of contraception, as I mentioned earlier. Identities, including birth control pill and abortion. It was also a time in which women were able to explore sexuality more openly outside the traditional marital context. Follow me. Sexual morals prior to the sexual revolution were far more stringent in the United States and around the world. The years after World War II were a time of great economic growth and prosperity, but they were also a time of constricting moral values in Western countries. The popular media ignored the concept of sexuality and focused instead on conjugal harmony and marital bliss that was defined by sexless family values. Follow me. Television and film portrayals of family life removed sex from the equation, often suggesting that married couples slept in separate beds. Let me stop right there. How many of you remember the old movies? Let's start off with Lucille Ball. Remember Lucy and Ricky Ricardo? You remember they slept in separate beds in that show, if you remember? This was during that time where these kind of situations were incorporated, where they were promoting men who were married to sleep in separate beds, where there was an end table in between separating the two beds. Just follow me. I just want you to get the picture in your head from what I know you saw in some of these movies, so that you understand how this concept and idea evolved. They slept in separate beds. The 1950s were also a time in which conservative forces united in a campaign against those suspected of engaging in homosexuality. J. Edgar Hoover, director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, was one notable figure who linked homosexuality and sexual deviance to communism during the early years of the Cold War. Prior to the sexual revolution of the 1960s, there were moments in which more modest progress on the sexual front took place in the United States. Margaret Sanger, you're going to remember who Margaret Sanger was in just a second, because I'm sure many of you heard this name before. Margaret Sanger, she had a big part to play in the birth control movement. She led the effort to widen the availability of birth control for all women, founding the American Birth Control League in 1921. Although she faced great resistance during this time, there was a growing acceptance in American society for birth control among married women. Among married women, folks, who had already had children in Soviet Union or Soviet Russia. A sexual revolution took place alongside Bolshevik revolution in the early 1920s. Follow me. The Russian revolutionary Alexandra Kollontai was a major proponent of free love. Listen, which sought to abolish the institution of marriage and the nuclear family, what we know today to be identified as traditional marriage. Early Bolsheviks saw marriage and sexual restriction as a tool of the patriarchal, capitalist subjugation, and sought to create a more sexually egalitarian society. During the same time period, a sophisticated sexual culture also flourished in pre-Nazi Germany. Listen how far this goes back, folks. This goes back far, man. This is not new. This is not new. This is something, this is a movement. This is a campaign that they have been working on long before many of us were even born. This flower is now beginning to bloom in full force today. But look how long it took. It's been in the works for a very, very, very long time. Follow me. There was an era of conservative crackdowns on sexuality around the world, and a new sexual revolution would not reemerge until the 1960s. When did the sexual revolution begin? Several events led to the origin of the 1960s and 70s sexual revolution. By the late 1950s, the scientific community was coming around to the idea that repressing sexuality was detrimental to individuals and societal well-being. I wonder who came up with that thought process. Let's continue. This was a period in which researchers like Alfred Kinsey, William Masters, and Virginia Johnson began studying the intricacies of sexuality. Their research proved to be controversial, as skeptics believed that sexuality was natural and sexual deviance was moral rather than a scientific or medical matter. During this period, a number of books on sexuality were published and explored subjects that were previously thought to be taboo, such as sexual attraction, arousal, pheromones, and orgasms. Kinsey also founded the Kinsey Institute of Research in Sex, Gender, and Reproduction in 1947. Folks, do you see how far this goes back? This goes back far, man. This baby is fully matured today, fully matured. But this was an infant. In fact, this at some point was an embryo that grew into a toddler, then from a toddler into a teenager, and then from a teenager into an adult. Today, we see a full-grown, mature adult in this idea and thought process. Follow me. The feminist movement was also the forefront. It was also the forefront of the sexual liberation, which feminists arguing that women's lack of reproduction rights was a main factor in their ultimate subjugation in society. The original feminist movement, first wave, sought to gain legal equality for women in the form of voting rights. We're going to stop right there. I want to say this, man. I want to say this. Understand that this movement that we see today, it's much bigger than what the LGBT community is promoting in terms of them being able to exercise their quote-unquote civil rights. This is not a civil rights issue. Understand that. Although this community, the LGBT community, with all respect, they tend to promote their movement and equate it with the civil rights movement of the 60s, where black people were fighting for their own civil rights based on white racism in the face of Jim Crow law. I respectfully say to you who represent the LGBT community, this is not your fight. You associating your fight with what black people and people who represented those quote-unquote individuals of color in this country who fought to be seen equally in the society that we had fought, bled, and died to establish, to only find ourselves being discriminated in the same country that we fought, bled, and died for, not just in slavery alone, but during the Revolutionary War and many of the wars that were fought on the sides of the North to get the freedoms that whites felt they deserved. Black people died to establish those same rights that we later found ourselves unable to enjoy ourselves. That's where civil rights came into play. So I respectfully say to you who represent the LGBT community, with all respect, this wasn't your fight, nor is it your fight today. And personally, I find it offensive that you would equate your struggle with what we had to die for, not for a few days, not for a few weeks, but for hundreds of years. And many of our leaders were assassinated, ridiculed, ostracized, isolated, to the point they became food for those that wish to destroy movements in our community, movements in our society, dismantle, infiltrate with spies to destroy any of the legitimate aspirations that black people fought, bled, and died for. I respectfully say to you again, to the LGBT community, this was not your fight today. It wasn't your fight yesterday, and it won't be your fight tomorrow. You need to find another fight. But it's not the fight that represented the civil rights movement. I will tell you that with respect. Let's continue. I will tell you this. If there was any impressionable mind that you were to attack, where any thought process, any campaign, any agenda was concerned, what mind would you go after? You would go after the most impressionable mind. That's why I said earlier in this stream, I said a child's mind is like wet cement. It can be shaped into whatever shape you like. How many of you remember when they laid new sidewalk in your communities? What's the first thing many of us used to like to do when we were younger? We wanted to get to that cement while it was still wet, right? And we wanted to put our names in that cement. Why? Because we knew once it hardened, we would see our name in that sidewalk for many, many, many years to come. In fact, our name would remain in that sidewalk, perhaps many years even after our physical death. That's why we did it. We were trying to make our mark in a place that we knew would be permanent and it would sustain. This is what you're doing when you start to impart ideas, when you start to impart campaigns, propaganda, thought processes, and when you make an idea or a campaign institutionalize to where now the campaign, the idea, and the thought process becomes normalized in the society. You, in fact, have just put your name in cement. And likewise, you've shaped the minds of the youth, of the young people, whose minds, again, is like wet cement. You see why it's so necessary to feminize and emasculate men. What is this really all about? No one in the public society is willing to ask the right questions. Although I know you think it. I know you think everything you've heard me say. Many of you have thought everything you've heard me say. What's keeping you from speaking up? I'm glad you asked. You're living the alternative lifestyle. That's why you won't speak. Your daughter is living the alternative lifestyle. That's why you won't speak. Your sons are living the alternative lifestyle. That's why you won't speak. Your pastor is living the alternative lifestyle. That's why those of you in the church community won't speak. Oh yeah, I'm talking to you. Some of your pastors are living the alternative lifestyle. Your deacons are living the alternative lifestyle. Your choir director is living the alternative lifestyle. Your choir members are living the alternative lifestyle. And I respectfully say that most modern churches, the entire church is full of individuals who have already chosen to live the alternative lifestyle. But yet you, as a man or woman who claim that you are called by God as a mouthpiece for God, you won't open your mouth. You won't speak what thus saith the Lord. According to your scripture, you won't speak against it. Why? I understand. Because you'll lose membership. I know that. Not only will you lose membership, but you'll lose members. You'll lose the money that comes with your membership. I understand very clearly. You'll lose the grants and the funding that you receive from government by being registered as a nonprofit organization. I understand. So you, in fact, truly are not a mouthpiece. In fact, you are a mouthpiece for someone else, but it's certainly not God. It's certainly not the Most High. It's certainly not your faith and what you believe is a higher power bigger than yourself, if you were to be honest with yourself. So what is this campaign really all about? And what is its end goal? This stream tonight was to help open your eyes to see what I know you see. You can't turn on your television without seeing what I said. You know you can't. You can't watch a single series that comes on television, including Power, including Empire when it was on, including any other show that shares our reflection, and including those that don't. You know you cannot watch anything on television and not see what I'm telling you right now. You can't do it. We're in Pride Month right now. A whole month is given to this campaign. A whole month is given to this idea. A whole month is given to it. And yet no one asks any questions whatsoever. Whether we believe that Easter represents the resurrection of Christ, and I'm speaking to those of you that consider yourself Christians, and I'm talking to any Christian that hears my message, that hears my stream tonight, whether any of you or those of you that do believe that Easter represents the resurrection of Christ. You notice how he only got one day, but not Pride Day? No. Do you understand that the birth, according to this society, which was December 25th of Christ, for those of you that believe that that's the truth, I won't argue with you over this stream as to whether that's true or not. I have my own opinions and feelings about that date. But I will tell you this, for those of you that say you believe it, you only got one day, but not Pride Month. Not Pride Month. Do you understand that to bring harm to an animal is more important to the society, and that you could be prosecuted for doing harm to an animal, but yet they fight for the right to destroy a human life in the way of abortion? Do you understand what kind of society you are living in? Do you understand the campaign and the propaganda machine that's behind what you see and what many of you support in ignorance? Do you understand what you're living under? Do you understand what you are witnessing? Do you understand? This is what this stream is about tonight. It's not going to be one of my most popular streams. I'm sure YouTube will find a way to perhaps even flag me. I don't care. I don't care. The fearful and the unbelieving die 1,000 deaths. A soldier only dies but once. Somebody has to have the courage to speak. Because if no one speaks, evil men do evil when good men and women say nothing. Do you understand that? Do you understand me? Evil men and women move forward successfully when good men and women say nothing. That's when evil takes hold of a society. When those that have knowledge, those that have wisdom, and those that possess understanding say nothing because of fear. They say nothing. That's when evil prevails. We can see that this campaign today, in the feminizing and emasculation of men in general, black men in particular, has become so successful, so pervasive, and has saturated almost every corner of the globe, to the effect that now governments are fighting other governments to legalize the behavior, man. We had, and what we celebrated was a black president, Mr. Barack Obama, who initially, in the beginning of his campaign, spoke with principle against the alternative lifestyle, only to quickly change his ideas and thought processes where it was concerned. What is the power and the stronghold in government that forces everybody to bend their knees and bow, irregardless of their right to disagree, irregardless of their moral stance against what they may consider personally to be immoral? I mean, you have the right to make that decision, folks. You have that right. They said you had that right. But you're afraid to even exercise the right they said you have. They've successfully made the American people afraid to even exercise their own civil right against what they disagree with, and in fact, what they find immorally incorrect. I think everyone who hears this stream needs to take some introspect and ask yourself, are you a victim of anything I said tonight? Are you that one that goes along to get along? Are you that one? that has already given in and given over and found a way to logically excuse your decision by saying, just let people live. Just let people decide what they want to do. I mean, after all, they have a right. Yeah, they do have a right. All things, many things are lawful, but not expedient. Many things are lawful, but not expedient. What will you stand for? What will you stand for? Because right now, your sons are in a vacuum to emasculate their entire identity. Right now, your daughters are in a campaign to change the natural order of things. Let me say this as we close. In your scripture, for those of you who consider yourselves Christians and you believe in the Bible and you follow after the Bible, I want to tell you something that your scripture says in Ephesians 6, chapter 12 verse. It says, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Principalities would suggest a spirit world. You know, some of you don't want to go with the spirit world. Okay, fine. That's okay. Against powers, against the rulers of darkness in this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. This is what your scripture says. This is what your scripture says. And it goes on to say this as well. In Romans, the first chapter, as we close this stream, I want to leave you with this last thing. In the book of Romans, first chapter, at the 20, I would say, let me start here. At the 21st verse, it says, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, but became fools instead, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Follow me. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Then it goes on to say in the 26th verse, for this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was meat. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, meaning they forsook God, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, the covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy, in scripture called death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do so. What does that mean in that last verse, folks? As I get to close, I want to answer a few questions that I saw in the chat room. That last verse speaks to the mindset today. It says, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but they have pleasure in them that do them. That means individuals that go along to get along. Won't open your mouth. Won't speak out against what you consider to be immorally correct. You have no protest whatsoever. As if something is wrong with you being in disagreement. So you're allowed to disagree with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But you mean to tell me there's something that you'll be ridiculed, demonized, if you in fact disagree? Don't you ask yourself the question? How does that work? How does that work? Again, I want to thank all of you for getting on the stream tonight. I want to address a few questions that I see in the chat. Let's see here. Let me see what I got here. Alfreda said, me and my grandson has had and still having these conversations. He is only 11 and will be 12 next month. But he started this conversation when he was 9. Wow. 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 And I'll tell you something, folks. That's serious, man. Because many of you who have children, your children have also approached you with the same conversation. Why? Because they're confused, man. They're confused. They're confused. Stop telling your children to accept something without explaining to them this behavior. Stop doing it. Many of you that have children, you could not have had children had you subscribed to this mindset or to this lifestyle. And again, I want to say, as a disclaimer again, I don't care who you choose to sleep with. I don't care. I don't care. No more than you should care who I sleep with. And folks, no more than I should care who you sleep with that are heterosexual. This is not something we advertise to the public. This is a private affair. This is a private affair. When private affairs become public, that's when you know it's an agenda. That's when you know it's a campaign. In fact, let me see who else got a question here. Alfreda said he knows morally what's going on with the LGBTQ is not right in his eyes. Awesome. You said, do you know Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, is celebrated in the same month as Pride? Oh man. You know what? That's a good catch, because I really hadn't paid that any attention. But that was a good catch. That's a good catch. I really hadn't paid that any attention. That's interesting. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Wow. You said, Alfreda said, Dr. King said these words, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That is so true. That is so true. So true. Yeah, thank you for that comment. Thank you for that comment. Alfreda goes on to say again another comment. They have even taken the covenant that God has given to us as a promise to flood the world no more and made it into their flag. That's so telling that they would use that. That goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, that we're not dealing with simply a decision that people have made. We're not simply dealing with individuals who have chosen this lifestyle as a fight for their rights to choose or civil rights. This is an absolute spiritual war. Make no mistake about it. And for those of you that don't believe that, that's your opinion. But if you think this is something simple as an individual making a decision, but there are no forces, there are no powers in place in this society and in this world that is pushing the agenda of the minds of those who are in this earth, then you are delusional. You're delusional. You're delusional. If that's what you think. But if that's what you think, I respect your decision, your belief in that. You'll soon come to know that it's bigger than just one or two individuals or a few individuals or an organization. This is a nationwide tidal wave that goes far beyond simply a decision, far beyond individuals who chose a way of life, and far beyond individuals who feel like they are being discriminated because of their choice. Far beyond. This is way bigger than that. I thank all of you for your engagement tonight in this particular stream. Again, those of you that come into the stream, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, that we may get this information out. This all supports the algorithms of YouTube, and it gets more people to hear this particular stream and become more and more informed by you hitting the share button and by hitting the like button. And if you're so moved to support the channel so that we can continue doing these things and getting this kind of information out and informing people, that's what Let's Talk About It Now is really all about. Then you can support this channel via Cash App, $, capital C, capital G, 4033. And with that being said, I thank all of you for your support in watching the stream. I thank all of you for your sincere engagement and your questions. Shout out to Afro Goddess again. Shout out to Alfreda, love you. Shout out to Abdul, and shout out to all of you who get on the stream again after this stream is streamed live. With that being said, we are out. Peace and blessings. Have a blessed night, folks.